In this video, we'll study about the projection fibers, which forms one of the component of the white matter of the cerebrum. The projection fibers connects the cerebral cortex to the subcortical area such as corpus striatum, the thalamus, the brainstem and the spinal cord. These fibers are of two types. One is the corticofugal fibers, which go away from the cerebral cortex to the centers in the other parts of the CNS. The other fiber is the corticopetal fibers, which comes to the cerebral cortex from the other centers in the CNS. The projection fibers of the neocortex constitute the corona radiata and the internal capsule, while those of the allocortex, that is the archicortex and the paleocortex, constitute the fimbria and the fornix. The most important bundle of projection fibers are the internal capsule and the fornix. In this video, we'll study about the internal capsule in detail. The internal capsule is a compact bundle of projection fiber between the thalamus and the caudate nucleus medially and the lentiform nucleus laterally. These fibers fan out rostrally to form the corona radiata and they condense caudally to form the crus cerebri of the midbrain. The ascending fibers, which are otherwise the corticopetal fibers or sensory fibers, and the descending fibers, which are corticofugal or motor fibers of the internal capsule, chiefly interconnect the cerebral cortex with the brainstem and the spinal cord. These fibers are mainly responsible for the sensory and the motor innervation of the opposite half of the body. Because of the high concentration of the motor and the sensory nerve fibers within the internal capsule, even a small lesion may produce a widespread paralytic effect and sensory loss in the opposite half of the body. Next, we'll see the shape and the boundaries of the internal capsule. In the horizontal section of the cerebral hemisphere, the internal capsule. So, this is the internal capsule. So, this is the internal capsule which appears as a V-shaped bundle of compact fibers with the concavity directed laterally. It is bounded medially by the caudate nucleus and the thalamus, laterally by the lentiform nucleus. So when you see the parts of the internal capsule is divided into 5 parts. This is the anterior limb and this is the posterior limb. Connecting the anterior limb and the posterior limb is the genu. Then you have the retrolentiform part, which lies behind the lentiform nucleus, and sublentiform part, which lies below the lentiform nucleus. The anterior limb lies between the head of the caudate nucleus medially and the anterior part of the lentiform nucleus laterally. The posterior limb lies between the thalamus medially and the posterior part of the lentiform nucleus laterally. The genu is the bend between the anterior and the posterior limb with the concavity directed laterally. The retrolentiform part lies behind the lentiform nucleus and the sublentiform part lies below the lentiform nucleus. Next, we'll see the constituent fibers of the internal capsule. So first we'll see about the motor fibers. So the motor fibers or descending fibers or corticofugal fibers. So first we'll see about the corticopontine fibers. The name itself implies it connects the cerebral cortex and the pontine nucleus, pons, which are present in the pons. So corticopontine fibers. The corticopontine fibers originate from the cerebral cortex of all the lobes of the cerebral hemisphere and they form the largest single group of projection fibers in the internal capsule, about 2/3 of the total fiber component. They are named according to the lobe from which they arise. For example, frontopontine, parietopontine, occipitopontine, temporopontine, which arises from frontal, parietal, occipital and the temporal lobes respectively. The frontopontine fibers are most numerous and they pass through the anterior limb, genu and the posterior limb. So the frontopontine fibers occupy anterior limb, genu and the posterior limb. Whereas the parietopontine and occipitopontine fibers passes through the retrolentiform part of the internal capsule that lies behind the lentiform nucleus. Retrolentiform part of the internal capsule, there you have the parietopontine and occipitopontine fibers. The temporopontine fibers passes through the sublentiform part of the internal capsule. The corticopontine fiber, they arise from the cerebral cortex and they relay and synapse in the ipsilateral pontine nucleus which is present in the pons. These fibers which arise from the pontine nucleus cross the midline to relay in the cortex of the opposite cerebellar hemisphere. So this forms the cortico-pontocerebellar pathway. The cortico-pontocerebellar pathway is most recent in development and best developed in man. Next we'll see about the pyramidal fibers. They arise from the cerebral cortex and they relay in the lower motor neurons within the brainstem and the spinal cord. The pyramidal fibers are of two types. One is the corticonuclear fiber, the other one is the corticospinal fibers. This is a flow chart to show the corticonuclear fibers and the corticospinal fibers. The orange and the green one are the corticonuclear fibers. The corticonuclear fibers, they arise from the cerebral cortex. They synapse with the contralateral motor nuclei of the cranial nerves which innervates the muscles of the head and neck. The corticonuclear fibers, they occupy the genu of the internal capsule. The corticospinal fibers, they arise from the cerebral cortex and they synapse with the anterior horn cells of the opposite half of the spinal cord which innervates the muscles of the upper limb, trunk and the lower limb. The corticospinal fibers, they form several discrete bundles in the anterior 2/3 of the posterior limb of the internal capsule. The fibers of the upper limb are more anterior, followed in order by the fibers of the trunk and the lower limb. Next we'll see the extrapyramidal fibers. These fibers arise from the cerebral cortex and they relay into the subcortical gray matter which belong to the extrapyramidal system, namely the red nucleus, the corpus striatum and the substantia nigra. And they are named according to their destination. The corticorubral fibers which ends in the red nucleus, the corticostriate fibers which ends in the corpus striatum, the corticonigral fibers which ends in the substantia nigra. Most of the extrapyramidal fibers, they occupy the position near the corticospinal fibers in the internal capsule and therefore they are affected in the lesions of the posterior limb. Next we'll see about the sensory fibers. The sensory fibers are mostly thalamocortical fibers which radiate from the thalamus to reach the cerebral cortex in different directions. So they constitute the thalamic radiation. Most of the thalamocortical fibers are tertiary sensory neurons of various sensory pathway which conveys the somasthetic sensation to the cerebral cortex. The other fibers constitute the formation of thalamic radiations are the corticothalamic fibers from the cortex to the thalamus. Corticothalamic fibers. According to the direction of these fibers, the thalamic radiation are divided into subgroup. First is the anterior thalamic radiation. The fibers of anterior thalamic radiation are directed anteriorly and they connect anterior and the dorsomedial nuclei of the thalamus to the frontal lobe cortex. Next we'll see about the superior thalamic radiation. So this is directed superiorly and the fibers passes through the anterior limb of the internal capsule and they connect the ventral tier of the thalamic nuclei with the sensory cortex of the frontal and the parietal lobes. Next you have the posterior thalamic radiation which is directed posteriorly. The fibers of posterior thalamic radiation, they pass through the retrolentiform part of the internal capsule and they connect the lateral geniculate body to the primary visual cortex of the occipital lobe, forming the optic radiation or geniculocalcarine tract. Next is the inferior thalamic radiation which is directed inferiorly. The fibers passes through the sublentiform part of the internal capsule and most of them connect the medial geniculate body with the primary auditory area of the temporal lobe, forming the auditory radiation. Next we'll see the fiber constituent of the internal capsule in the tabular form and the diagram. So in the anterior limb which lies between the head of the caudate nucleus and the anterior part of the lentiform nucleus, here you have the frontopontine fibers and the anterior thalamic radiation. In the genu, you have the frontopontine fibers and the corticonuclear fibers of the head and neck and the superior thalamic radiation. In the posterior limb, you have the frontopontine fibers, the corticospinal fibers of the limbs and the trunk, and then you have the corticorubral fibers, and then you have the superior thalamic radiation. In the retrolentiform part of the internal capsule, you have the parietopontine and the occipitopontine fibers and the posterior thalamic radiation which forms the optic radiation. And in the sublentiform part of the internal capsule, you have the parietopontine and the temporopontine fibers and also the inferior thalamic radiation, that is the auditory radiation. Next we'll see the arterial supply of the internal capsule. The arterial supply of the internal capsule is of great clinical significance due to high incidence of vascular lesion of the internal capsule. The various artery which supplies the internal capsule are the medial and the lateral striate branches of the middle cerebral artery. One of the lateral striate branch is larger and more frequently ruptured, and it is often termed as the Charcot's artery of cerebral hemorrhage. It enters through the anterior perforated substance and supplies the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Next we have the striate branches from the anterior cerebral artery. One of the striate branches from the anterior cerebral artery is larger and it takes a recurrent course and it is termed as the recurrent artery of Hubner. It arises just proximal to the anterior communicating artery and runs superior to the optic chiasma and penetrates the anterior perforated substance to supply the genu and the anterior limb of the internal capsule. Then you have the central branches of the anterior choroidal artery, which supplies the sublentiform part of the internal capsule, and some direct branch from the internal carotid artery supplies the genu. The central branches from the posterior communicating artery also supplies the internal capsule. The posterolateral central branches of the posterior cerebral artery supplies the retrolentiform and the sublentiform part of the internal capsule. Next we'll see the clinical correlation. Damage to the internal capsule due to hemorrhage or infarction leads to loss of sensation and spastic paralysis of the opposite half of the body, that is called as the contralateral hemiplegia. The hemorrhage commonly occurs due to the rupture of the artery of the cerebral hemorrhage, which is also called as the Charcot's artery of cerebral hemorrhage, which supplies the posterior limb of the internal capsule. The spastic paralysis of the opposite half of the body occurs due to the involvement of the pyramidal and the extrapyramidal fibers of the upper limb, trunk and the lower limb. The rupture of the Charcot artery of the cerebral hemorrhage is the most common cause of the hemiplegia. Involvement of the recurrent artery of the Huebner due to the thrombosis or rupture results in the paralysis of the face and the upper limb of the opposite side because of the involvement of the corticonuclear fibers in the genu and the adjacent pyramidal fibers in the posterior limb for the upper limb. The lesion of the posterior 1/3 of the posterior limb and the sublentiform and the retrolentiform part of the internal capsule lead to the visual and auditory defects, and these lesions usually occurs due to the thrombosis of the anterior choroidal artery, which is a branch from the internal carotid artery.